A long time ago in the kingdom of Ayodhya, there lived a great king named King Dashratha. Now he had 3 queens, and between all of them, he had 4 royal sons. And as it was decided, the eldest son, Prince Ram, was to be crowned prince. But one of the 3 queens had an old promise with King Dashratha that she had 2 wishes. And so she went up to the king and asked for those 2 wishes to be granted. The first wish was for her son Bharata to be crowned prince of Ayodhya. And the second wish was to banish Rama in exile to live in the forest for 14 years. Now, of course, King Dashratha, being a true king, he had to honor that promise. And that is how Rama, together with his beautiful wife Sita and his loyal brother Lakshmana, left the kingdom of Ayodhya and went into the Dandaka forest to live for 14 long years. So Bharata, when he heard what his mother had done, he didn't feel it was right of him to be the crown prince of Ayodhya. So he went in search of his eldest brother Rama, and when he found him, he begged Rama to please come back and be the crown prince. But Rama refused because his father, the king, had banished him. So as a gesture of honesty and loyalty, Bharata removed his eldest brother's wooden sandals, went back all the way to the royal throne of Ayodhya, placed them on the throne as a symbol of the rightful heir to Ayodhya. And Bharata decided that he would rule only as deputy until the day Ram returned from exile. While Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana were in the forest, the king of Lanka, Ravana, heard about the beauty of Princess Sita, and he decided to make her his own. And so he devised a plan and disguised himself as a poor beggar, and he came to the little hut where Sita was at. And there he began to ask her and lured her slowly to come out of that hut and to serve him alms. Immediately he transformed into his true self and abducted Princess Sita, and he flew off in his magnificent golden chariot. Now, as Ravana's chariot flew up into the sky across that forest, the army of monkeys led by Hanuman himself saw the chariot. Now Jatayu, the giant vulture bird, also saw that chariot. Sita dropped all her jewels, her bangles, her anklets, her earrings, her necklaces as a trail for Rama and Lakshmana to find her. So Hanuman and his army of monkeys, they found these beautiful jewels and they wondered to whom it belonged to. But very soon they met with Lakshmana and Rama himself, who had come looking for Princess Sita. And so Hanuman explained how he had seen Sita flying together with Ravana in the golden chariot. And he knew the chariot went all the way south to the island of Lanka. And so it was that Hanuman pledged his loyalty to help Prince Ram and Lakshmana to go and rescue Princess Sita. So the army of monkeys were joined together with Jambavan, who was the leader of the bears, and the army of bears. So we have Rama, Lakshmana, Hanuman and his monkeys, Jambavan and his bears, and all the creatures joined together and marched all the way south to the last point of India. And there they were faced with the vast ocean. Lanka was an island on the other side. And so they had to get across to rescue Sita. Now Hanuman, he was gifted as a child with magnificent powers gifted by the gods themselves. And so Hanuman grew into a giant and he dived into the sea and he began to swim to Lanka. But all the others, the bears, the monkeys, and Rama and Lakshmana's army, they began to build a bridge made out of stone and rocks. So Hanuman arrived at the island of Lanka way before all the others arrived. And so he went to see Princess Sita and he explained to her how Prince Rama was on his way with an entire army to rescue her. When Ram, Lakshmana, Jambavan, Hanuman, the monkeys and bears were all gathered at the battlefield in Lanka, a terrible, terrible, long and bloody battle ensued between Ram's army and Ravana's army. Now this battle lasted for many, many days and many, many nights, and many of the soldiers were mortally wounded, including Lakshmana himself. And at that point, Hanuman was told by a wise sage that up at the top of Mount Kailash there was a special herb called Sanjeevani that could revive the mortally wounded. Hanuman flew all the way up to the top of Mount Kailash, and there he saw all sorts of plants, but he did not know which one was Sanjeevani. And so he lifted the peak of Mount Kailash in his arms and he flew back to the battlefield. And the right herb was used to revive Lakshmana. And not only Lakshmana, but all the other mortally wounded soldiers were revived. And so Ram's army was now stronger than ever. And they fought and fought and fought. And finally, Ram pierced the armor of Ravana with his golden arrow, and the 10-headed demon king Ravana crashed to the battleground dead. Sita is rescued and she is reunited together with her husband Prince Rama, and everybody celebrates and there's so much rejoicing and there's so much joy and happiness and feasting and singing and dancing. And at the end of all that celebration, Ram, Sita, Lakshmana, accompanied by Hanuman, they return all the way back up to Ayodhya. Now, the people of Ayodhya kingdom, they get wind that their crown prince, Prince Rama, is returning home together with Lakshmana and Princess Sita. And they know that he will arrive through the Dandaka forest in the middle of the night. And so they light oil lamps from the edge of that forest leading all the way to Ayodhya palace itself. And that is how the entire kingdom of Ayodhya welcomed Prince Ram, Sita and Lakshmana back home. And Ram, being the eldest son, he became the king of Ayodhya.